Hi, I'm Supervisor Don Knabe, and I'm pleased to welcome you back to another episode of Dialed In. This month, I'd like to focus on an issue that I'm very passionate about, and that's our veterans. Since the dawn of our country, the men and women of our armed forces have sacrificed, many giving their lives, to preserve our freedoms at home and abroad. And nearly 2 million veterans live in California, and almost a quarter of those veterans reside right here in Los Angeles County. And sadly, too often, our veterans return home from combat suffering from not only physical injuries, but emotional traumas like post-traumatic stress disorder. And after giving so much for their country, it's our turn to lift them up. And that's where Los Angeles County comes in. Whether it's helping veterans and their families obtain benefits and services, or helping our homeless veterans obtain housing, or helping vets reintegrate back into their communities. There are many ways the County of Los Angeles and our partners are here to assist our veterans. This month, I'm pleased to welcome the Director of our Department of Military and Veterans Affairs and the CEO and President of U.S. Vets, a national organization dedicated to serving the men and women of our armed forces. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to Dial In. Our first guest today is the Director of the Los Angeles County Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, retired Brigadier General Ruth Wong. General Wong completed a very distinguished career in the United States Air Force before retiring in 2001. She served as an aeromedical evacuation flight commander in the Persian Gulf during Operation Desert Storm and was selected to become one of the first nurse practitioners in the Air Force. She's had an extensive career with Los Angeles County, including working with the Department of Mental Health before being appointed our Director of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs in 2013. Thank you for joining me today, General.
You're welcome, Supervisor.
As I said earlier, I always feel like I have to salute you. Being an old enlisted man and being a veteran myself, I mean, being with the General is always something pretty special. So, how many veterans does our department work with, either on a daily basis, an annual basis, monthly basis?
Well, you know, our veteran counselors serve our veterans throughout the county, all the way from the South Bay to Lancaster to West Covina, and all of them see anywhere from 50 to 80 veterans per month, and they carry a caseload between 100 and 150. And so we see them on a walk-in basis, we see them on a scheduling basis, but we also see them in the field when we go to stand-downs, when we have events out in the county. And they do, many of the visits that they do are not only one-to-one individually, but phone calls as well.
So a veteran in need or a veteran in crisis, how do they access the Los Angeles? I mean, I know as a member of the Board of Supervisors, our offices get calls, so we refer folks to you.
Right.
Right, and you take it from there. But a lot of people don't know how to call our office or call anyone. So how does a veteran in crisis coming back today access our Department of Military and Veterans Affairs?
Well, first of all, before a young man or woman is separated from the military, they go through what we call the TAPS program, which is a transition program. And during that 3-day period, they learn about information on what the county can provide, what kind of services they can access. So that's one way they can access services, is through the information they get during that course they take before they're separated. Also, we have a website, and our website provides information about DD-214s, about veterans' benefits, how our counselors can help them. And then a lot of the veterans get information when they go to veteran resource fairs. As such, we had a veterans resource fair last week, and they came to Patriotic Hall, which is our veterans building in downtown Los Angeles, and they heard about our services. And the very next day, we had a number of them that came and were looking at what kind of services they could get as veterans.
Well, I think too, I mean, you do such a good job in outreach. I mean, whether it's, you know, I'm always been a big supporter of the Welcome Home Vietnam Vets, the annual day and program that we have. You all have your services out there for vets that are walking around and, you know, being able to access service, our job fairs in the county, some of the our contracting. There's always some of them when they're from Military and Veterans Affairs. And it's sort of interesting because I always watch, and there's somebody always at your booth.
Yes.
and you hope it's for all the right reasons. So you have to work with a mixture of veterans. You have the veterans from the old days.
We do.
Right?
We do.
And now you have, I would assume, an increasing caseload as we wind down in Iraq and Afghanistan. Is there an increasing caseload of veterans returning?
There are increasing caseloads. Right now, we serve about 50% of the population we serve are Iraq and Afghanistan veterans.
50%?
About 50%. And that includes men and women. And I have to tell you that the men seek services more than women do, which is kind of interesting. So we have to provide different ways of reaching our population. First of all, many of the veterans returning to Los Angeles County are coming from other areas in the country. They're coming back home and they don't know exactly where we're at. But what we do is we get a list monthly from the Department of Veterans Affairs up in Sacramento, and we contact those veterans coming back by mail. We send them a postcard. We say, welcome back, come on in, come and see us.
Wow.
And, you know, that's one way.
What if they're homeless? They have no, that's a P.O. box. I mean, how do you?
Well, the ones that are homeless, we work with the Department of Mental Health, and they have caseworkers that go out and reach the homeless, and they bring them to us. And many of them are trained in what to do and what kinds of services that we provide, and they can offer them when they're with them out in the field.
And you have a lot of community partners as well. I mean, not just our own Department of Military and Veterans Affairs programs like a U.S. Vets and some of the others that we work with very closely. Is that correct? I mean, we can't do it all on our own.
We do. We have a number of partners. In fact, right now we're setting up a one-stop service center at Patriotic Hall, and we are going to have no less than about 20 nonprofit and veteran service organizations, and they provide an array of services. We're going to be able to provide job training, job placement, legal services, housing, special services for those that have post-traumatic stress disorder or any kind of mental health conditions, and you name it, we're going to provide it. We want to be able to take care of all the needs of the veterans.
So let's talk about Patriotic Hall just for a little side second here. I mean, we just rededicated it.
Yes.
Tell us some of the things that we were able to do. I mean, it came out beautiful. I mean, obviously it was there.
It's a wonderful building. The original building was built in 1925. It's always been a veterans building. In World War II, it served as a dormitory for the soldiers and also had some artillery up on the roof to protect the city of LA. And right now what we're doing is we're opening our doors to military and veterans organizations that want to serve our veteran community, and also for the military to come in and perhaps do some things that they haven't been able to do. As a matter of fact, and you were there in February where we had the first deployment ceremony for our military that we're deploying to Afghanistan, a communications transportation unit.
That was very special. I mean, just being there and knowing, you know, the next step was this nice little celebration, say, we're proud of you, we thank you, but they're, you know, all of a sudden you realize there's family members in the audience. It's going to be this separation from 9 months to a year. It was quite an experience to be part of that.
Right, and it was wonderful too that we could invite the families. And that's the other thing that we're able to provide at Patriotic Hall is not only services to the veterans but their families, because reintegration right now is what we're looking at in serving our newly returning veterans. Combat to community is what we call it, and we want to help them reintegrate back into the community.
Is it different? I mean, this new breed of veterans being an all-volunteer military versus, you know, draft and everything else in the previous years. Is it a different population, different needs?
One of the things that we've noticed right now is that, and I don't know if it necessarily is due to the fact that it's an all-volunteer force, but the demands placed on the soldiers and the airmen and the Marines are different than they were before. And what I mean by that is that many of them have been redeployed. They've gone through many deployments. They have been separated from their families much longer than maybe some of the other veterans of the past. And so we're seeing some different conditions that we're having to deal with. In Vietnam, there was about maybe three or four conditions that we had to deal with. Now we're up to as many as 8. And that's anywhere from physical conditions to mental health conditions. So definitely a different population in that respect.
So the turmoil at the VA hospitals has made the news, obviously, and with the retirement and resignation of the current secretary. Has that turmoil boiled down to the local level yet? Has there been any impact on our ability to serve veterans or our ability to provide the services, or any more demand on our services because they don't want to deal with the VA?
You know, we've always been a close partner with the Veterans Administration, and we continue to do that. They come to our Veterans Advisory Commission meetings and they brief us on what's happening. We had a briefing a couple of weeks ago on some of the things that they're facing. But I would say that our demands are about the same, in the sense that we are there to provide the services, and we are still working very closely with the Veterans Administration in trying to bring them in with us into Patriotic Hall and to provide those needed services.
Congress recently passed a law that allowed veterans to receive local benefits or work with local doctors versus the VA kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things we've tried at the county level is to make Rancho into the VA system, because obviously brain injury, in the rehab, that whole piece, that's what we do, and it's truly a center of excellence each and every year. It's been a difficult process. Do you think now, with this change, that you and your role and the department will be able to help facilitate that working relationship between the VA and local doctors and county facilities, that, you know, we're looking at providing housing for them, mm-hmm. you know, their families, because a lot of the traumatic injuries, they either have to go back to Texas or mm-hmm. pretty far north, mm-hmm. and we've got this wonderful facility right here in Los Angeles County. Mm-hmm. What do you see on the horizon then as it relates to that?
Well, I think what the military is doing, and the VA is doing as well, is looking at serving our veteran community even better than before, in terms of, if a veteran lives more than 40 miles from a facility, they are now able to go to a private provider. And if they're able to get specialty services within their community, that is also something that they're able to do. So I would say that the County of Los Angeles, not only our whole healthcare system would be something that we could offer to the VA and the veteran community, because we offer so many services that they need.
And we have, and it's been sort of an uphill struggle for us, and we keep working it, keep telling, you know, bring them out here, have them look at our services. I mean, because I think particularly specialty care, mm-hmm. it's more than a 40-mile issue. It's an issue of whether they have enough docs to treat the folks that they need in long wait times. So we sort of wind down here. What someone wants to access, a veteran wants to reach out, how do they reach out to you? I know you said a web page. Mm-hmm. And there's probably a phone number.
Yes.
What is the web page?
Our web page is militaryveteransaffairs.lacounty.gov, and all the information is right there. But I also want to tell you about a special effort that we're doing that is called If You Served, You Earned. And that's going to be a special promotion that we're going to be doing this year in conjunction with our Department of Veterans Affairs up at the state. And so we are going to be promoting more than ever our services and reaching the men and women.
What do you call that again? If you
served, you earned.
If you served, you've earned.
Yes.
Brigadier General Ruth Wong, and the heads up our Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us today, but more importantly, what you do each and every day on behalf of our veterans. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Dial In. My next guest is Steve Peck, who is President and CEO of U.S. Vets, a national organization dedicated to providing housing and other essential services to at-risk veterans. Steve served in the Marine Corps during Vietnam, and since returning home, he has dedicated his life to bringing awareness to veterans' issues, including homelessness. So thanks for joining me today, Steve. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Obviously, first of all, just let me say thank you for all that you do on behalf of our veterans. You served in the Marine Corps, as I mentioned in your intro. What was your homecoming like when you got back?
Coming back from an experience like Vietnam is it's like kind of like stepping off a cliff. You just don't know what to expect. I've been told what to do for 3 years, been through a very intense experience in Vietnam, so I felt a little cut loose, and it really took me a while to get my feet and really kind of refocus myself on what I wanted to do next. So it was a struggle for a few years.
So all of a sudden you had this open space instead of a foxhole, probably. So I mean, you know, I mean, it's. I mean, I was in the military as well too. I mean, in the United States Navy, so I wasn't in the foxhole. But I think the point being is the most important point is you've been told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and all of a sudden, you know, it's that freedom coming back. Even though it's a short period of time, there's so much compacted into those years of service.
Yeah, and that combat experience is especially intense, and you're there, you're part of a unit, you're part of something larger than yourself, you're dependent upon other people, they're dependent upon you, so you're very focused all the time. There's never a minute when you're not focused on the mission. And when you come back, there's no mission anymore, so you really have to find another mission.
So I think the thing that amazes everyone, like when I'm out giving speech, I say, you know what we have here in Los Angeles County? We have one of the saddest situations ever. We have the largest homeless population of veterans in the United States of America right here in Los Angeles County.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure do.
Tell us, why do you think that so many of our military coming back now wind up in the streets, men and women?
I think there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. You know, I mean, like me, when I went off to Vietnam, most of my college mates went to work. So by the time I came back, they were 3 years ahead of me in the work world. A lot of veterans are dislocated. They join these days within the volunteer army. They join the military for a variety of reasons. So maybe they don't have job skills. Maybe they want to get away from that family that's been disruptive, and they end up in another location. And a lot of them end up here in California. There are more soldiers and Marines discharged here than anywhere else in the country.
Is that because it's sort of a release point?
Los Alamitos is a real release point, and you know, California, a land of opportunity. They still think that they're going to come out here and they're going to start a new life and find a job, and whatever challenges they had generally come with them.
Because they're not always single. I mean, probably broken marriages or the families departed. I mean, while they're in service, has that happened too? Probably a lot.
Absolutely. There's a lot of divorces among this young population, and of course, most of the wives end up with the kids. And if the wife is just as likely to have been in combat as the husband, and so she's dealing with the PTSD issues, and maybe there's sexual trauma issues there, and she has to take care of her children, and she has to find a job. It's a heavy load.
How many veterans does U.S. Vets see or touch lives each and every year?
U.S. Vets has 11 locations in 6 states in the District of Columbia. We started here in Los Angeles County, so about 1,100 of our beds are here. But we'll see about 5,000 veterans every year. We'll help about 1,100 every year get back to work. So three guys every day. We're helping to find employment. About another 3 guys we're helping to find permanent housing. So we think we're really making a difference.
So take us through the process. Somebody comes to U.S. Vets. Is it a feeder from our Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, or is it a direct feed to you? How do they find you?
We've gotten to be pretty well known. We do have an outreach team. We have 5 outreach workers here in LA County that visit every agency that may provide services to someone who's homeless or on the verge of homelessness. We go to EDD. The VA refers people to us, so they come in and we do an assessment. We want to get them through our system as quickly as we can. We don't want them to become dependent upon us. So we'll do an assessment, and maybe what they need is a job. Maybe they need mental health counseling. We'll provide that. We know that we need to provide, along with the housing, the mental health counseling, and the employment assistance if needed. We need to solve all those problems to really help them become independent again. So
the timing, a veteran comes, I mean, I know you help not only individual veterans that are coming back, but also families.
Yes.
And with the wraparound services, that it's just more than just homelessness or housing, correct? I mean, you mentioned mental health services. So what is the timing of that? I mean, that, you know, when you look at it, and you know, whether it's just a straight homeless person or a veteran that's homeless, I mean, you talk about wraparound services. You can't take care of a mental health issue in 30 days. You can't take care of, you know, other issues, particularly, as an example, the post-traumatic disorder. How is that all dealt with through U.S. vets?
If a veteran has been homeless for a while and experienced a lot of trouble in their lives and post-traumatic stress, they're probably going to be with us 8 months to a year. They'll come in, we'll get them stabilized, we'll make sure that if they need mental health counseling, they're accessing that. If they have any physical issues, of course, we'll get them over to the VA. Meanwhile, they're in this stable environment with their peers, and that peer counseling is very important. They're going through this process of rehabilitation with a lot of other vets who have the same issues as they do. So that really helps move them along. And
so they know they're part of something. I mean, that there's other people suffering from the same kinds of things.
And we have the advantage that they've all been in the military. They've all been part of a squad and a platoon and a company. So they know that process of working together. And it really, that peer counseling really is important for our vets.
So that brings up another question that I have. Obviously, when you go back and you talk about veterans, it's not just current. It goes way, way back. To many, many years ago. So with the younger generation, the folks coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan, do they require a different kind of treatment? I mean, here you have the original draft, I want to join, to strictly an all-volunteer military. Do they need or require different types of services or have different needs than the guy that got drafted and went in and spent 3 years in the military and was in Korea or World War II, whatever it may be, Vietnam?
They need something different. They were before we adjusted our programs. We've made a lot of changes to our programs over the past 3 or 4 years to adjust to this new population. They were failing in our old programs. Our standard kind of back to work. They would come in and about 3 weeks they'd bail out on us. We really couldn't figure out why. But we found out that the young guys who come to us, almost who are homeless, all of them have PTSD. So we have to deal with that first. So we created a window there of a month or two just to get them back on their feet. They're not expected to go and look for a job, and we require counseling. Dealing with your PTSD is hard. It's an unpleasant experience. It's a traumatic experience. And a lot of guys don't want to talk about it. So we require them to go into counseling just to make sure that they're in touch with it. And then once they get mentally stable, then we say what's going to happen next. And about half of them are going back to school, which is great. They're getting educated to get a career. And another half of them are going back to work.
And I'm not sure about the rest of the country, but the community colleges here, particularly in Los Angeles County, seem to be adapting to that to make with open arms to bring some of our returning veterans in for opportunities, not just for straight education, but obviously career kinds of counseling, and that must help you as well too.
Absolutely. There's veteran resource centers at the local community colleges, and we have a mental health program called Outside the Wire, which provides confidential mental health counseling within those veteran resource centers. And we're at 8 community colleges.
So we've heard on the news a lot about sexual trauma as well with these folks, and you're having to deal with. So that's probably a new area that's sort of been disregarded in the past, that sort of didn't exist in everyone's eyes, but now is big.
And we had the same experience initially with our women's program, which we opened 10 years ago. Women were not succeeding. Come to find out that of the women who come to us, about 70% of them had military sexual trauma. So it really
that's
is
a big number.
It really is tragic. So we created a 12-week program to address that.
Again, it's all to stabilize before you move on.
You bet.
So obviously the national news, the VA, a lot going on there. Are there impacts locally to your operation that you would say, because of all the confusion and the high-profile kinds of news stories that people don't want? Is that impacting locally?
Not to any great degree. This administration has been very generous with the homeless programs. They know how serious the homeless program is, so that funding has not been disrupted. They're certainly distracted. I talk to administrators who say, you know, they're driving me crazy because we're having to do all these extra things because of the news about the VA.
Yeah, there's a lot of CYA going on
There's
out
a
there.
lot of
A lot of
CYA
paperwork
going on.
So how come members of the community get involved in assisting your program?
Members of we have a lot of community support and always need more. I always think that solving the homeless veteran problem is a community issue. We can't do it alone. We'll be the spearhead, but we certainly need help. We need help with companies who want to give financial donations, who want to give veterans jobs. We're putting a lot of veterans back to work and expanding our list of companies who want to hire veterans. So I would say get in touch with your local nonprofit like US Vets and find out a way to contribute to what they're already doing.
And the same would apply to businesses. Obviously the jobs piece is important, but also
Yep.
financial support, I would assume.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have several events every year that we're having an event October 9th in Los Angeles, our annual fundraising dinner, so companies can get involved that way.
And I also know that you do a good job collecting clothes for job search. I mean, in other words, and that's available. So, I mean, if people want to utilize that to get the things to you, I know that a lot of folks that I know do that. And then you have the opportunity to sort of teach them how to dress for success or put them in a position where they're not out there in rags interviewing for a job.
Exactly. A lot of these guys come to us with the clothes on their back. That's all they got. So we have clothing rooms at all our spots, and really want them to go out on job search, you know, a shirt and tie at a minimum, so that they're ready. And when we teach them how to present themselves, how to transfer those military skills that they've got into the civilian world.
So as we close down this segment, how does a veteran in crisis access you today? Is there an 800 number? Is there a web page? What is it?
We have a web page, www.usvetsinc.org. Our national office is area 213-542-2600.
We'll get that out.
But if we can get that out, if they call there, no matter where they are, if we have a site near where they are, we'll get them over there.
Steve, it's a tough job that you do. I tell everyone you're one of my heroes in trying to really filter down to really, you know, changing programs to the needs of the veterans. Like you said, I mean, you had the old template, you did this, this, and this. That doesn't work today. Technology's better, but at the same time, you've got that personal feeling inside a veteran that still needs to be dealt with, whether it's stabilizing and moving forward. You and US Vets do an incredible job each and every day. We're proud of you. We're proud to be a partner with you. And again, I thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
I appreciate it, Don.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. I want to thank our special guests today for taking the time to join me, General Ruth Wong and Steve Peck. They both do incredible work for the veterans throughout all of Los Angeles County. The men and women of our military have given so much for our country. Some have even made the ultimate sacrifice, protecting our freedoms at home and abroad. More and more veterans are returning home from war with physical as well as emotional scars. For some, reintegration to civilian life is even more terrifying than serving in a dangerous war zone. The County of Los Angeles and incredible organizations like US Vets are available to provide those critical services to help our at-risk veterans. Whether it's housing assistance, job training, health care, or mental health, all veterans throughout Los Angeles County have a place that they can turn to when they are in need. We owe our veterans for the sacrifices that they've made to keep our country safe. If you are a veteran in need of assistance or know of a veteran in crisis, you can reach out to our Department of Military and Veterans Affairs by calling 1-877-458-8387 or contact the National Veterans Crisis Line by calling 1-800-273-8255 and then pressing 1. Or you can reach out to Knabe.com. To our men and women currently serving overseas, we pray for your quick return and safe return back home. God bless our troops, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you again for tuning in to Dial In. We'll be back next month with an all-new show.